Chapter 1. I have 3 enemies. One slept with my fiancée, one cheated me out of my money, and one wants my life. Not long after, they died mysteriously one after another. And I married my enemy's beautiful younger sister and became incredibly successful. My first enemy was Deng Kuan, my fiancée's ex-boyfriend. A few days ago, he forced his way into my fiancée's home, drugged her, and raped her. Afterward, he even sent me a text message, openly humiliating me. Hey, your fiancée is so fair and tender, so smooth. I was trembling with anger and wanted to call the police and have this animal arrested. The beast threatened me. I have a video of your fiancé. If you dare call the police, I'll release the video and we'll both go down together. I'll make sure your fiancé can't show her face in public. My face turned green with rage. Did I have to endure this humiliation and meekly wear this cuckold's hat? Deng Kuan sent another message. I know you own an advertising company. You're not short of money. Give me 300,000 and I'll disappear from your lives immediately. Otherwise, I'll harass your fiancé every day. You wouldn't want your fiancé to be tormented by me constantly, would you? If I gave him 300,000, would he continue to extort me, demanding 400,000, 500,000? It's not the thief stealing that you fear, but the thief lurking. How could I live with this thief constantly lurking around? It would be better to just kill him and be done with it. The next morning, I was at home eating with my fiancé. Deng Kuan sent me a picture. My fiancé lying in bed with sleepy eyes, and he was sitting next to her, his filthy hand stroking her tender white leg. Immediately after, he sent a video, him lying on top of my fiancé, kissing her rosy cheeks. I trembled all over, my lips turning white. My fiancé, upon seeing the photo and video, broke down emotionally and cried at the dining table. After crying for a while, she grabbed my phone and sent a voice message cursing Deng Kuan. You're an animal. I'm going to sue you. Deng Kuan replied. Then go ahead and sue me. If you sue me, I'll release the photos and make sure you can't show your face in public. I'll let your relatives and friends know about your scandal. Let them point their fingers at you and make your parents lose face in the village. My fiancée's hands trembled with anger. She could barely hold the phone. Deng Kuan became even more smug. I have even more explosive stuff. Do you want to see it? I was furious. What do you want? Deng Kuan, it's simple. Give me 300,000 and I'll disappear immediately. Me. If I give you 300,000, are you sure you'll leave? Deng Kuan, I'm Sua. If you don't want your fiancé to lose her will to live, you'd better give me the money quickly. My fiancé, her eyes red from crying, said, Don't give him the money. I'd rather die than let him get away with this. With that, my fiancé ran towards the window, ready to jump. I quickly rushed forward and grabbed her. Don't do this. I'll find a way to deal with this. My fiancé asked me with red eyes. What are you going to do? Me. Kill him. Deng Kuan lived alone in the old Shah factory residential compound on Workers Road in our county. It was a rundown place with few surveillance cameras, perfect for carrying out my plan. I'm 177 centimeters tall, weigh 70 kilograms, and have practiced Sanda for 3 years. Killing him wouldn't be difficult. Those who have killed often know that murder tests not only skill, but also mentality. Chapter 2. Here's the English translation of the Chinese novel excerpt. To kill someone, you first need to overcome the psychological barrier. I spent 2 whole days preparing mentally before I truly made up my mind to act. Killing is also physical labor. Before taking action, you need to eat something to replenish your energy. I went to Old Gao's noodle shop near the company and ordered a bowl of noodles. After 2 bites of the thin noodles and a sip of hot soup, I felt comfortable all over and full of energy. Just then, Deng Kuan sent a message. Brother, come over to my place to talk. If you think 300,000 is too much, we can negotiate. Me. Okay, I'll be there in a bit. Deng Kuan. Great, brother. I'll be waiting for you at home. I went back to the office to get a switchblade, put it in my pocket, and drove to the entrance of Deng Kuan's residential complex at 6:50 p.m. I parked the car in the camera's blind spot, felt the switchblade in my pocket, got out of the car, entered the complex, and arrived at Dang Kuen's door. The door was ajar. I pushed it open, took out the switchblade from my pocket, exposed the blade, ready to slaughter him. But the bastard wasn't home. He didn't answer my calls or reply to my messages. I didn't know where he was hiding. I waited for another 10 minutes, but he still didn't return. So I put away the switchblade and left, planning to come back to kill him tomorrow. The next afternoon, I was about to go to Dang Kuen's place again when two detectives, a man and a woman, came to my office and said Dang Kuen was dead. I was stunned. I hadn't even acted yet. How could Dang Kuen be dead? Which kind soul had done the deed for me? I asked the police. Who killed him? The male detective showed his hand. What do you think? I was bewildered. What do you mean? You don't suspect me, do you? The male detective. We wouldn't come to you without evidence. We hope you'll cooperate with the investigation. Don't resist. I was speechless, but didn't dare to resist. I could only follow them back to the police station. They collected my fingerprints and hair samples, then took me to the interrogation room. The male detective was named Zhao Bin, the head of our county's criminal investigation team. He had a square face and was very serious. He stared at me and asked coldly, "Why did you kill Dang Kuen?" Me. What evidence do you have to prove I killed him? The female detective, by Runin, seeing that I was playing dumb, briefly explained the investigation process. This morning at 8, we received a call reporting a murder case at the Textile Mills residential complex. The victim was named Dang Kuen. Although we didn't find Dang Kuen's body, we found his blood in his home, along with your fingerprints. We also found a switchblade in a nearby trash can with Dang Kuen's blood and your fingerprints on it. We also investigated Dang Kuen's social relationships. His ex-girlfriend is your current fiancée. We speculate that Dang Kuen was probably pursuing your fiancée, causing you some trouble. You became enraged and killed him, then disposed of the body. The surveillance footage shows that you indeed entered Dang Kuen's residential complex around 6:50 p.m. yesterday, giving you ample time to commit the crime. You even parked your car in the camera's blind spot, which is highly suspicious. Come clean. Where did you hide Dang Kuen's body? I hadn't acted, but Dang Kuen was dead, and all the evidence pointed to me. Clearly, someone was trying to frame me. The real culprit behind the scenes was highly intelligent, setting up a perfect play. They not only killed Dang Kuen, but also successfully made me the scapegoat. If I couldn't prove my innocence, I'd be in deep trouble this time. Fortunately, I had an ace up my sleeve. Chapter 3. I took out my backup phone and showed Zhaobin a video. The video was a long shot, starting at 6:53 last night. It completely recorded the entire process from me getting out of the car and going to Dang Kuen's house, then to his room to contact him, waiting for him, and finally leaving the complex and driving home. This video fully proves that I didn't even meet Dang Kuen at his house, let alone kill him. I'm innocent. I explained. Dang Kuen and I had a falling out. He suddenly asked me to go to his house yesterday. I was afraid it was a trap, so I wanted to record our meeting. If he attacked me, I would have evidence to sue him. That's why I took this video. Zhaobin thought my words made sense, and after a while he let me go. Although I didn't personally kill Dang Kuen, he's dead anyway. It's resolved a major problem for me, which is a good thing. I need to celebrate. I went home, ordered a bowl of hui man, hui mian, a type of noodle soup, 3 lamb skewers, and drank 3 glasses of juice. I ate and drank feeling great. My fiancée, Yang Huihui, came to my house and saw how happy I was. She seemed surprised. Hey, go, why are you? Ismail, Dang Kuen is dead. No one will threaten you anymore. She was stunned. Ah, Dang Kuen is dead. I said, yes, the police told me. She asked, really? How can the police be so sure? Did they see Dang Kuen's body? I said, not yet. The police are looking for Dang Kuen's body. I guess they'll find it soon. While we were talking, someone posted on the online forum that a charred body had been found in an abandoned chemical plant in the western suburbs of our county. The body was in a terrible state, burned beyond recognition. I suspected that the charred body was Dang Kuen's, so I quickly showed Huihui the news. Look, they found the body. Deng Kuin is really dead, huh? Hui Wei looked at the news, her face pale, her eyes filled with uncontainable sadness. Deng Kuin is dead. Shouldn't she be happy? Why is she sad? Because the person she loved was never me, but Deng Kuin. She and Deng Kuin were in cahoots, a pair of con artists specializing in marriage scams. She would first pretend to be a virtuous wife and mother, obedient to me in every way, treating me like an emperor, quickly winning me over. Once I was completely hooked and couldn't extricate myself, she would start to control me. She'd lie, saying she was assaulted by Deng Kuin and that he had filmed it, then have Deng Kuin blackmail me until I was drained dry, before moving on to the next victim. How did I discover this vicious woman's ugly face? Because Yang Hui currently lives in my house, and I secretly installed hidden cameras in it. I like to surveil people. Her every move is under my control, but she has no idea. She's a wicked woman, and I'm no saint. A month ago, Deng Kuin, who had been locked up for 6 months, was released from prison. He immediately went to find Yang Hui, and that night they started plotting how to get money from me. I saw right through Yang Hui's wickedness, but I didn't expose her. I wanted to see what tricks they could come up with. Before long, they started working together, finding various excuses to extort money from me, but I wouldn't take the bait. They were at their wits' end. 2 nights ago, Deng Kuin secretly came to Yang Hui's house again, complaining, "What should we do now? You even pretended to jump off a building, and he still wouldn't give us the money. We need to think of another way quickly." Chapter 4. Yang Hui smirked. "I've already figured out a way." Deng Kuin asked, "What way?" Yang Hui said, "Zhou Yi's advertising company is quite profitable. I plan to frame Zhou Yi, take over his company, and become the boss myself." Deng Kuin was shocked and excited. "Huh? That big of a move? How do I cooperate?" Yang Hui proudly explained her plan. "Tomorrow night, you set up your house like a crime scene, put some of your blood under the coffee table, and then invite Zhou Yi over, letting him leave some fingerprints and footprints. Then you hide in the abandoned chemical factory in the western suburbs that night. The next morning, I'll throw a spring knife with Zhou Yi's fingerprints and your blood on it into a trash can near your house, and then anonymously call the police to frame Zhou Yi. The police, combining the above evidence, will definitely suspect that Zhou Yi went to your house and killed you, at least detaining him for 12 hours. Then that night, I'll go to the chemical factory to find you, and you'll come forward to testify, insisting that Zhou Yi kidnapped and imprisoned you. With both physical evidence and witness testimony, Zhou Yi won't be able to argue his way out." Deng Kuin's eyes lit up with excitement. "My dear Hui, you're the best." Yang Hui smiled faintly. "I don't believe I can't take him down. I have to say, their scheme was indeed cunning. If I hadn't installed cameras in advance, I really would have been framed. But as the saying goes, where there's a will, there's a way. Or rather, for every cunning plan, there's a counterplan. Deng Kuin didn't manage to frame me, but instead became a charred corpse himself. You're still too naive to mess with me." I didn't expose Yang Hui, but pretended to be curious and asked her, "What's wrong, Hui? Why are you so sad? Shouldn't you be happy that the scum Deng Kuin is dead?" Yang Hui quickly calmed down and forced a fake smile. "Well, it's a life after all." I sneered. "A normal person's life counts as a life, but the life of a scum like that doesn't." Yang Hui gave a fake smile. "That's true, a scum like that deserves to die." I carefully observed her emotions and detected a hint of murderous intent in her eyes. I concluded that she would try every possible way to get me, to avenge Deng Kuin. "Come on, let's play a good game and see who can laugh last." The next evening, Yang Hui brought her younger sister, Yang Cici, to my house. She said her sister was a junior in college, just started summer vacation, had nothing to do, and wanted to find an internship, asking if I needed an assistant. I said, "Sure." Yang Cici was Satu, 67 meters tall, with delicate features, fair skin, and a cheerful personality, like a delicate rose. That night, the 3 of us drank quite a bit. I don't hold my liquor well and quickly got drunk, so I suggested going back to my room to rest. I don't know how long had passed, but I woke up feeling thirsty. I turned over and found someone lying next to me. Looking closely, it was Yang Cece. Why was she in my bed? However, I have to say, her features were even more delicate than Yang Hui's. Her skin even smoother, and her body full of youthful energy, exceptionally charming. She was wearing a low-cut black silk camisole, revealing glimpses of her skin, extremely alluring. I instinctively wanted to bury my face in her tender white neck and take a deep breath. I ultimately controlled myself and didn't cross the line. It wasn't because I was moral, but because I knew this was Yang Hui's scheme. Chapter 5. Here is the English translation. After getting Yang Cece drunk, she sent her to my bed as bait. If I dared to take the bait, she would call the police and have me arrested for molestation or rape. How did I know all this? Because I wasn't actually drunk at all. I pretended to be drunk and went back to my bedroom, secretly monitoring the living room situation through my phone's camera. Yang Hui took advantage when Yang Cece wasn't paying attention and put sleeping pills in her wine glass. After Yang Cece fell asleep, she changed her into sexy sleepwear, helped her to my bed, and then placed a recording device in my room, just waiting for me to take the bait. I have to say, this woman is ruthless. To get back at me, she even sacrificed her own sister. I left the room and went next door, asking Yang Hui with a confused expression, Hui, why is Cece in my room? Yang Hui pretended to be surprised. What? Cece is in your room? You didn't do anything to her, did you? I frowned seriously. Of course not. I'm not that kind of person. Yang Hui went on the offensive. How did she end up in your room? I clearly sent her to the guest room. I asked with a smile. Maybe you sent her to the wrong room? Yang Hui laughed awkwardly. Oh dear, maybe I drank too much and mixed up the rooms. How about this? You sleep in my room and I'll stay with her. I nodded with a smile. Sure. Yang Hui hurriedly left the room and went to the master bedroom. Watching her leave, I smiled. Go ahead and play your games, I thought. Sooner or later, your sister will end up in my hands. The next morning, after breakfast, I drove Yang Cece to the company to familiarize her with the business. Before long, a young man with a crew cut arrived at my office with 5 or 6 friends, looking aggressive. This was Wang Jinlong, Yang Cece's boyfriend, a hot-headed youth in his early 20s. He pointed at my nose and called me an old pervert, accusing me of taking advantage of Yang Cece. I guess Yang Hui must have stirred things up by sending Wang Jinlong photos of Yang Cece in my bed, which is why he came storming and demanding answers. As a young man in his early 20s, impulsiveness and recklessness were his nature. He valued face above all else. Whoever dared to make him a cuckold, he would fight them to the death. Yang Cece, completely unaware of what had happened, frowned and scolded the unreasonable Wang Jinlong. What's wrong with you? Why are you cursing at my brother-in-law for no reason? Seeing his girlfriend taking my side, Wang Jinlong's jealousy exploded, his anger soaring. You've only known him for one night, and you're already defending him. Did he satisfy you last night? Yang Cece was stunned. What nonsense are you talking about? Are you sick? Wang Jinlong. You always refuse to get a room with me, and I thought you were so proper. But behind my back, you're fooling around with this almost 30-year-old bastard. How cheap can you be? Yang Cece, after being berated so harshly, was completely furious. She raised her hand and slapped Wang Jinlong. Are you sick? Stop causing trouble and get out of here. Wang Jinlong was enraged. He clenched his fists, wanted to hit Yang Cece, but not daring to. Instead, he kicked over the money tree in my office, grabbed the teacup from my desk and smashed it down, then pointed at my nose and yelled, You old bastard, fight me if you dare. Chapter 6. The 5 friends around him rolled up their sleeves, ready to fight me. Unfazed, I calmly walked up to Wang Jinlong, suddenly pulled a switchblade from my pocket, pressed it against his neck, and with a forceful jab, drew a little blood. Wang Jinlong, already short and young, had never seen such a scene. His face paled, and his whole body trembled. The 5 friends who came with him were all cowards. Seeing my ruthlessness, their lips trembled, and none dared to breathe. I raised my left hand, patted Wang Jinlong's face condescendingly, tilted my head, and warned him close to his ear. I'll spare you this time. If you dare cause trouble again, I'll kill you. Get out. Wang Jinlong gulped and ran for his life. His cowardly friends scrambled to escape, as pathetic as stray dogs. Yang Cece, completely bewildered by what had just happened, broke down, squatting on the ground, covering her face and sobbing. I squatted down and comforted her softly. Maybe your boyfriend misunderstood our relationship. Why don't we find a chance to talk to him later? Yang Cece sobbed softly. I don't care about him. He's childish like a kid every day, always causing trouble. I sighed warmly, bear with it. After all, there's only one mature person like me. No branches. Yang Cece chuckled. Brother-in-law, you're so narcissistic. Our relationship had unknowingly become much closer, all thanks to Yang Huihui. Yang Huihui had failed twice in her attempts to set me up, and I believe she would definitely resort to even more aggressive tactics. A few afternoons later, Yang Huihui came to the company with a pregnancy test, claiming she was pregnant with my child, demanding we get married and that I take responsibility. I was stunned. Are you sure this child is mine? Yang Huihui answered with certainty. I've calculated the dates. It's yours. Let's get the certificate and give the child a home. I thought for a moment and said, okay, let's get the certificate tomorrow. Yang Huihui excitedly hugged me. Brother E, I will definitely serve you like an emperor in the future. I smiled. Good. Then we'll live a good life as a family of 3. Yang Huihui put away the pregnancy test and skipped away. I sat in my chair, staring at the ceiling in a daze. Suddenly, I had a hypoglycemic episode and felt faint from hunger. I went to a nearby man restaurant, ate a few bites of noodles, drank some hot soup, and felt better. The next morning, I put on a suit, took a bouquet of roses, and drove to Yang Huihui's apartment complex. I messaged her to come downstairs, but she didn't reply. I waited a while longer and called her, but couldn't get through. So, I took the roses upstairs, opened the door with the spare key, and Yang Huihui wasn't there. She was pregnant. Where could she be? I sat on the sofa and saw a few slices of watermelon on the coffee table in the living room. They had gone bad. Logically, if someone were home, they would have put the uneaten watermelon in the refrigerator. Could it be that Yang Huihui hadn't been home all night? We have a custom here that when someone close to you dies, you keep vigil for them on the 7th night. Last night was Deng Kuen's 7th night. I guess that Yang Huihui was probably addicted to keeping vigil for Deng Kuen and didn't want to come back. Helplessly, I left with the roses, returned to the company, and continued working. Half an hour later, Zhao Bin and Bai Runin came to my office. Chapter 7. I stood up and greeted him. Captain Zhao, what brings you here? Did you find Deng Kuen's killer? Zhao Bin's face was grim. Young Hui, he's dead. I was shocked. Hui's dead? How? Zhao Bin said, burned to death, in the same place where Deng Kuen died. I was even more shocked. How could this be? Don't tell me she committed suicide out of grief. Zhao Bin asked, did you know she was pregnant? I nodded. Yes. She told me yesterday. She said the child was mine. I was thinking of giving the child a proper home, so I said we'd get the marriage certificate today. Look, I even bought these flowers. I gestured to the bouquet and was about to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau, but I couldn't reach her. I didn't expect. Zhao Bin's expression was serious. Where were you at 11 p.m. last night? I sensed something was wrong. Captain Zhao, what do you mean? You don't suspect me of killing Huihui, do you? Zhao Bin asked. Do you have an alibi? I was working overtime at the company until 10 p.m. Then I drove home and didn't go out again. You can check the surveillance footage if you don't believe me. Besides, Huihui was carrying my child. Why would I kill her? What if the child wasn't yours? I frowned. What do you mean? Are you saying Yang Huihui was carrying someone else's child and deliberately lied to me? We did a DNA comparison. The child was Deng Kuen's. I was stunned, my face turning green. This. Seeing my face turn green with anger, Zhao Bin seemed to dismiss me as a suspect and left with Bai Runin. Watching their backs, a slow smile spread across my face. I tossed the roses in the trash can, leaned back in my chair, put my feet up on the desk, stared at the ceiling, and unconsciously hummed a tune. Actually, I'd known for a long time the child wasn't mine. From the moment Yang Huihui and Deng Kuan were messing around together, I was already on guard against her. I wouldn't let that kind of wicked woman have my child. After Yang Huihui's death, Wang Jinlong went on a rampage online, slandering me and calling me a murderer. He said I killed Yang Huihui's loving ex-boyfriend, Deng Kuan, so I could have her all to myself. He also said that after I got tired of Yang Huihui, I wanted to force myself on Yang Cici, but Yang Huihui wouldn't allow it, so I killed her too. He spoke with such conviction that many people believed him. Many media outlets also started paying attention to this gossip-filled serial murder case, adding fuel to the fire with their sensationalized reports. Yang Cici confronted me, demanding to know if I was the one who killed her sister. I said sincerely, if I were the killer, I would eventually slip up. If you suspect me, you can stay by my side and investigate me. If you find any clues, you can report me to the police at any time. To find her sister's killer, Yang Cici decided to stay with me. I gave her a suggestion. Why don't you create a social media account? Call it 20 years of chasing my sister's killer. It might get popular. Yang Cici thought it was a good idea and actually started a short video account. Many netizens following the case wanted to learn about the developments through Yang Cici, and in less than a month, she gained 50 to 60,000 followers. Yang Huihui's death unexpectedly became my ticket to online fame. She always wanted my money, but I turned the tables on her. Chapter 8. Under my guidance, Yang Cici gradually became a professional streamer, earning 20 to 30,000 yuan a month, an income far surpassing her peers. Grateful for the opportunity I'd given her, she messaged me one night with a full moon, inviting me to dinner. I pushed open the door with 99 roses in hand. She sat at the table in a loose white shirt. A rich dinner was laid out, along with a bottle of red wine and 2 white candles. A gentle breeze blew, causing the candle flames to flicker wildly. I walked over with a smile, sat down, drank the wine, ate the food, and then took her. Rose petals scattered across the floor, bathed in the moonlight, creating shimmering ripples. 10 days later, Yang Cici came to my office with a pregnancy test displaying 2 lines. She stated simply, "You should know. That was my first time. I took out the wedding ring I had prepared. Let's get married." Wang Jinlong was furious when he learned that Yang Cici was going to marry me. Not only did he viciously slander me online, but he also cursed Yang Cici, calling her shameless and accusing her of seducing her brother-in-law. He also boasted that he would haunt me for the rest of his life and find evidence that I murdered Yang Huihui and Deng Kuan. Sitting in my office, I looked at his comments and smiled faintly. The previous 2 who tried to harm me are dead. Do you think you can live long? A few days later, Cici came to the office to discuss wedding arrangements with me and mentioned Wang Jinlong. I heard from classmates that Wang Jinlong threatened to disrupt our wedding and ruin it for us. I laughed. It's okay, don't worry about him. Cici was worried. We should still be careful. I softly reassured her. It's all right, I'm here. He won't be able to cause any trouble. Cici nestled in my arms, smiling sweetly. Creak, the office door opened, and Zhao walked in with by Runin. I asked with a smile, "Captain Zhao, have you caught the murderer?" Zhao expression was serious. "Wang Jinlong is dead." Cici was shocked. "Wang Jinlong is dead? Really? How did he die?" Zhao said, "Burned to death, just like Yang Huihui and Deng Kuan." Runin looked at me with a hint of hostility. "Where were you at 1 a.m. last night?" I was exasperated. "Seriously, you suspect me again?" Zhao. "People connected to you are being burned to death one after another. If you were us, wouldn't you suspect you?" His reasoning was crude, but there was some logic to it. I was indeed a suspect. I understood his feelings and cooperated patiently. I went home with Cici after work at 7 p.m. last night. We were home the whole time. She can testify for me. Yang Cici nodded. Yes, Ego was home all night. Seeing no signs of deception, Zhao continued to ask. "I heard from Wang Jinlong's friends that he once came to your company to cause trouble. Why didn't you call the police?" My tone was sincere. If I called the police, he would have a criminal record. I didn't want to ruin him. Xiaobin laughed. So you're a good Samaritan? I smiled. I always have been. Xiaobin's brow furrowed with stress. The case was having a negative impact, with multiple media outlets reporting on it. His superiors had given him an ultimatum. If he couldn't find the murderer within a month, he could say goodbye to his position as captain. Chapter 9. Xiaobin stared at me, eyes wide and round like an enraged vajra, as if wanting to violently interrogate and torture me. But in the end, he sighed and turned away. He didn't go far, though, and kept secretly following me. I knew he was investigating me, but I didn't care. I hadn't killed anyone, so I had nothing to fear. The sun rose as usual, and I lived my life as usual. Another month passed, and late autumn arrived with its bleak winds. Xiaobin invited me out for hot pot, saying he'd been demoted to deputy captain, replaced by a newly arrived younger leader. As we ate and drank, he couldn't hide his frustration. Just before we parted, he couldn't resist asking, "How did you do it? Did you hire a professional killer?" I laughed. "Captain Zhao, you've been watching too many movies. There are no professional killers." Xiaobin asked me, "Tell me what happened?" I smiled and filled his glass with wine. "Captain Zhao, life isn't a movie. Not every mystery has an answer." Xiaobin sighed deeply. His attempt to trick me into talking had failed. He threatened, "I'll keep an eye on you. You'll slip up eventually." I gave a wry smile. "Fine. Watch me all day, every day if you want." Xiaobin was like an ant on a hot pan, or a lamb lost in the fog. "How can you be so confident you won't be found out?" I smiled. "Because I didn't kill him." I continued to go to work as usual. If I was hungry, I would go to the noodle shop downstairs from the company building. The previous owner, a young man in his late 20s, had been replaced by a man in his 50s, Uncle's son, Lao Gao's father. I asked him, "Where's Lao Gao?" Uncle's son said, "He's gone." Me, "My condolences, Uncle." Uncle's son smiled. He said he'd had a good time these last few months and asked me to thank you. Lao Gao's full name was Gao Zheng. His original name was Sun Yin. 3 years ago, he passed the civil service exam for Zhengzhou City, full of ambition. He met Yang Huihui in Zhengzhou through a blind date. Yang Huihui could be said to be extremely gentle, treating Lao Gao like an emperor. Lao Gao quickly fell for her and swore he would marry her, scraping together a betrothal gift of 368,000 yuan. After receiving the betrothal gift, Yang Huihui slowly revealed her true colors, refusing to have any contact with Lao Gao. One time, Lao Gao became anxious, drank some alcohol, and tried to force himself on Yang Huihui. Yang Huihui immediately reported him, and Lao Gao was imprisoned for 1.5 years for attempted rape. The civil service job he had worked so hard for was gone, the betrothal gift was gone, and his life was plunged into darkness. After his release, he couldn't find a decent job, so he changed his name and quietly returned to his hometown to open a noodle shop. His promising life had been ruined by Yang Huihui. Every time he thought about it, his anger burned, and he smoked all night. 6 months ago, he was diagnosed with lung cancer. He wasn't willing to die like that. He wanted to kill Yang Huihui for revenge before he died, but he couldn't find her. After I noticed something was off about Yang Huihui, I found a way to investigate her and eventually track down Lao Gao. I contacted him and told him my story. Lao Gao begged me to provide information about Yang Huihui, so he could kill her and Deng Kuan and get revenge. I was happy to see this happen, so I told him everything I knew. Chapter 10. That night, when Lao Gao learned Deng Kuan was hiding in the factory, he waited until Deng Kuan was asleep, knocked him unconscious, tied him up, and tortured him for the entire night, venting years of pent-up frustration. When Yang Huihui went to burn paper money for Deng Kuan, he killed her in the same way. As for killing Wang Jinlong, it was because he had repeatedly harassed and threatened Yang Cici and swore he wouldn't rest until I was dead. Lao Gao said killing 2 was the same as killing 3, so he might as well eliminate my future troubles. Lao Gao is loyal and righteous. If he lived in ancient times, he would be a righteous hero. I am also a righteous man, and I will take care of Lao Gao's parents. All our communication was face-to-face. We didn't leave any written or voice records. Now that Lao Gao is gone, this case has become a complete mystery. Zhao Bin once suspected Lao Gao, but Lao Gao's father provided him with an alibi, so he didn't suspect him much. Besides, Zhao Bin's attention was always on me. He couldn't see anyone else. On the day Cici and I got married, both our parents, relatives, and classmates came to celebrate. We were extremely happy and later posted the wedding video online. Many enthusiastic netizens congratulated us, saying we were a perfect match, made for each other. Many enthusiastic netizens played detective online, saying I was the murderer, that I killed my ex to be with my sister-in-law. Others said Cici was a pervert and conspired with me to harm her older sister. The arguments raged, but eventually turned to dust and became nourishment for us, turning both Cici and me into internet celebrities. One day, Chen, a famous domestic suspense film director, approached us and offered $1 million for the rights to our story, planning to make it into a movie. Director Chen said, "There's a requirement for making movies in China. At the end of the story, the murderer must be brought to justice. Can you give me an idea? Tell me who the murderer is?" I thought for a moment and said, "How about you write that the murderer is my twin brother?" Director Chen shook his head. "Too cliché. Me. Multiple personalities?" Director Chen. "Outdated. Me. The murderer is a ghost?" Director Chen. "Won't pass censorship." I shrugged. "Just write that the murderer is me." Director Chen. "But you have a solid alibi. It's illogical." I smiled wryly. "Forget it, I won't sell the rights." Director Chen. "Don't do that. Think again." I pondered for a moment and looked at Director Chen. "Write that the murderer is you. You are a crazy artist. In order to create a good story, you manufactured a mystery and then confessed everything to the audience through the film." Director Chen nodded. "Interesting." A few months later, our children were born, a lovely pair of twins, a boy and a girl. The boy looks a lot like me, and the girl looks a lot like Cici. They both love to smile, and their smiles are very healing. On the day of their 100-day celebration, we booked the best hotel in the county and invited our relatives and friends to celebrate. Zhao Bin came. He told me that the captain of the criminal investigation team, who replaced him, had been arrested for wrongdoing, and the deputy director was also taken away for investigation. He was unexpectedly promoted to deputy director. I smiled. "Congratulations, Director Zhao." "Deputy Director," Zhao Bin laughed. "I came here this time to apologize to you. I was too impatient and presumptuous in handling the case before, so I targeted you everywhere." I waved my hand. It's okay, it's okay." Chapter 11. Zhao Bin said, "I'm at peace now. I've seen things through. If I can get promoted, great. If not, it's fine. Serving the people is what truly matters. With that attitude, you'll be promoted to director sooner or later." I laughed. "Don't even dare to think about it." Zhao Bin chuckled, then changed the subject. "But speaking of which, I'm just genuinely curious. Who is the killer?" At that moment, Lao Gao's father walked into the restaurant, smiling. He paused when he saw Zhao Bin. The three of us exchanged glances, the atmosphere gradually solidifying.